Hey there, my name is Bethany Reeves. I am a passionate marine biologist, and I'm a middle school science teacher in Olympia, Washington. I've taught science at Evergreen Christian School since 2018, and since then, I've totally fallen in love with teaching science. I have the honor of showing my students the wonder of the world around them every single day, and it's pretty cool. As part of my NatGeo Capstone, I decided to focus my 8th grade science class of about 20 students on a subject that I'm personally really passionate about, and it was using an activity that I helped develop while interning at Cascadia Research Collective. It's entitled Investigating False Killer Whales in Hawaii and Sustainable Seafood. The activity was broken up into 2 parts and was completed over 4 days with 50-minute class periods. Students were first introduced to the different populations of false killer whales that inhabit Hawaii. They were also introduced to the specific risks these animals are facing in regards to ingesting longline fishing hooks, overfishing of their main food source, and the physical demands brought on by military testing along certain channels between the Hawaiian Islands. Students then used real scientific data collected by satellite tags to plot and graph the paths of 3 false killer whales. They completed this task in smaller groups of about 3 or 4 students to allow for open discussion. We used provided ocean depths to then categorize the whales as belonging to either the offshore population or island-associated population. During day 2 of the activity, students resumed their small groups and added the second half of the data to their graphs. They added the paths of a longline fishing vessel, a personal fishing boat, and a military ship. We then discussed the risks associated with depleting these whales' food and exposure to the annual military sonar testing. The second half of the activity began on day 3 with a look at sustainable seafood alternatives to overfishing. The students watched a short video on the world's largest open ocean fish farm. We learned how these aquatic farms operate and the benefits they offer as a solution to overfishing all around the world. This opened up a great discussion about the students' opinions on overfishing causes and the solutions and the importance of sustainable seafood. I then introduced my students to a valuable resource, seafoodwatch.org, where they research the sustainable and non-sustainable options in Hawaii and their home state. We discussed why it's important to be conscious consumers and the positive effects it can have on our local environment and world as a whole. The students also answered some questions pertaining to their research on sustainable seafood and how to use the seafood guides for their local area the next time they purchase seafood. Day 4 put all of this information into practice. So students worked together with very little supervision to construct a visual representation of sustainable seafood in their area. They gathered pictures of sustainable and non-sustainable options, decorated the classroom door so that all the students in the middle school might also learn the importance of being a conscious consumer. Free little seafood guides were also provided by the door so that all grades might feel inspired to join the 8th grade in being conscious consumers of seafood. The scales and perspectives and themes of how the human world and natural world connect were purposefully woven into this activity. This was seen in the way that the lesson focused on the local and global ecological impacts of overfishing and sustainable seafood methods in Hawaii, also in the students' home state and on a global scale. The attitudes of responsibility and empowerment were included in the way students really felt the impact of their actions as consumers and the positive effect it can have when they choose sustainable seafood. The skills of observation and communication were exercised by the way students investigated and analyzed data intended to guide students to educated conclusions, and the way they collaborated in groups to complete the lesson. The students obtained knowledge in the themes of our changing planet by investigating how consumers impact their world when depleting the primary food source of species at risk, In addition, the theme of wildlife in wild places was highlighted in the way this whole activity centered around the risks associated with these false killer whales. Since completing this lesson, students have shown a genuine sense of responsibility as consumers of sustainable seafood. We as a class also had some very serious and important discussions on the responsibility each of us have to stand up for what we believe in, despite the sacrifices. The highlight for me has definitely been just overhearing them teach the lower classmen and also their families about what they've learned. This lesson provided several important and life-altering days in the science laboratory.